All right, YouTube, once again, it's Kennard, Vernon, and Stewart here for the podcast. Talking Auburn football, go ahead and subscribe to Vernon Speak Sports. Auburn, down in the Deep South, college football is king, and on the plains of Auburn, the battle cry is War Eagle. Very disappointing football game today for the Auburn Tigers as Auburn takes their worst loss at home since 2016. Obviously, the Auburn fan base is really not in a great area of arrears at this point. I mean, it's just not a good look for the Tigers at this point. 41-12 loss to the Penn State Nittany Lions. That, a lot of folks thought that Auburn could possibly beat this team. I think, when you look at a game like this, you look at where the Auburn program is at this point, and you have to, if you're on the emotional side of things, you have to question, is Brian Harsin the right guy for the job? You have to question those different types of things. But, we're not here to sunshine pump anything. It was a really bad loss for the Tigers. Giving up 17 points in the third quarter, giving 10 more points up in the fourth quarter, not giving Auburn a chance, scoring one very insignificant touchdown in this game. You really have to question a lot of things. But here's the thing. Brian Harsin is the head football coach here. And you have some opportunities for Brian Harsin and his staff and his team to salvage some opportunities down the stretch. Of course, you got you got Missouri coming up, and then you have LSU that has just capped off. Looks like they're about to cap off a nice win over Mississippi State. But you got to dig into this particular football game to see how this 41-12 situation took place. Well, one, you have an offense that just couldn't get going. I mean, you have a quarterback situation that just can't get going. 10 for 19 for Robbie Ashford. Not too much production out of TJ Finley. If you're going to be a football team that competes at a high level in Power 5 football, you just got to have better quarterback play. And also, you got to have better offensive line play. A lot of missed blocks, a lot of situations where, the quarterbacks are continuing to scramble. They make the reference to Bo Nix and how well he's done in the last couple of weeks at Oregon and how, a better offensive line has led to better production for him. The offensive line, honestly, just got to play better. They just have to play better. They have to play more consistent. And missing blocks, in a shotgun formation, as soon as the ball is snapped, you have a defensive player in your face. That's not a good look for any quarterback, whether it's TJ Finley, whether it's Robbie Ashford, whether it's Zach Calzada. The offensive line has to, have a come to situationship, deal and figure out how to give the quarterback a little bit more time to throw the football. Because, yes, in power football, you don't have a strong window of time, but 2 seconds is not enough. You can't snap the ball and immediately be in rollout mode and make things happen in power football. And another thing, I said when I talked about the keys to victory for Auburn, all of those keys would have won Auburn the game. Number one, TJ Finley has to have a good game. Nope, he didn't have a good game. That scratches that out. Number two, Tank Bigsby. I would consider, and maybe I'm a homer on this one, I would consider Tank Bigsby one of the better running backs. Let's just bring the sample size down a little bit. I would consider Tank Bigsby one of the best running backs, at least in the SEC West. And for a running back for one of the better running backs in the SEC West to have 9 touches for 39 yards, you can't win like that. Robbie Ashford actually ran the ball more times than Tank Bigsby. Robbie Ashford had 11 touches with the ball for 29 yards. Hell, TJ Finley had just as many running attempts as Tank Bigsby did. Can you win a game like that? No. Especially when you have Nicholas Simpson on the other side, a freshman, arguably one of the fastest football players in the nation, with 10 carries for 124 yards. His long was 54. So it wasn't like he was just gashing Auburn back and forth. You know? So let's really look at this. Sean Clifford, 14 for 19, 178 yards, 9.4 yards per pass, no touchdowns, no interceptions. One of the more experienced quarterbacks in the country. If you look at this statistically, this should have gave Auburn a chance to win, at least make it a closer game. Now, in my prediction show, I predicted that Penn State would win. I thought Penn State was the better team. The only reason why I thought that Penn State was the better team was because, one, more experienced players, more, active experience this season with Power 5 competition, a solid quarterback situation, just solidarity all around. I thought Penn State should win the game. Did I think they would win 41-12? No. If these two teams took on the field again, would I still think that Penn State will win 41-12? Absolutely not. I do not think that Auburn is a horrible football team. I don't think that Auburn is a team that will make a run for the SEC West. I think that this is an Auburn team that can become bowl eligible and win some games, win some games down the stretch. Do I think they'll beat a team like Georgia? Absolutely not. There are not many teams that will beat Georgia this year. But do I think that they can beat a Missouri? Or do I think that they can have a chance against an LSU or Mississippi State or Texas A&M? Absolutely, I do. But here's what they can't do. Auburn cannot have 4 turnovers, critical turnovers, and expect to beat any of these Power 5 teams down the stretch. Now, this is something that I expect for, Brian Harsin to fix. TJ Finley with 2 fumbles, 1 loss. Shedrick Jackson, this was a critical play. Shedrick Jackson with a really nice play, get a first down, fumble, give the ball up right before the half. Auburn is still only down 14-6. You look at Auburn on defense. Cam Riley still doing his thing. 6 total tackles, 4 solo. Owen Papo doing his thing. 6 total tackles, 4 solo. Iko Leota, 5. The defense actually gave this team a chance to win. Now, I will say from an improvement standpoint, what the defense will definitely have to do is really hone in on those third down situations. 3rd down and 10, 3rd down and 7. Because if you look at it, Penn State had 477 yards total. That's kind of normal, for a good Power 5 football team. Guess who had 415 yards? Auburn. Auburn had 23 first downs versus Penn State's 19. But determining factor, which I talked about in the keys to victory for Auburn in this football game, Auburn had 4 crucial turnovers. Can't win like that. You can't win like that against any team, really. Because as a matter of fact, if you look back, Auburn took on Mercer back in, I think, 2017, had like 4 turnovers in that game, and almost lost in that one. And that was an Auburn team that beat number 1 Georgia, number 1 Alabama in borderline consecutive weeks. Now, we ain't sunshine pumping here. This was I'm talking about a bad game for Auburn. Bad game. Now, do I think Brian Harsin should be fired for this game? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. This is a bad game. Now, you can't have too many more bad games like this, but the Auburn fan base has to understand. You know what? I'll go out and say that, no disrespect to any Auburn fan, because I'm an Auburn fan. I'm an Auburn alumnus, graduate class of fall of 2002. I have been an Auburn fan. I've liked Auburn for a long time, been an Auburn fan since being an alumnus for sure. But hey, you have games like this. And this just excites me because I want to see based on these guys' tenacity, these guys' resilience on the field, continuing to fight, continuing to go on, how they turn out. Am I sunshine pumping here? No, this game was jacked up. I thought Auburn they sucked tonight. I mean, they just did. But man, when I think about my own tenure as a football player, in high school where we lost, as a matter of fact, it's crazy. It's mighty ironic. My junior year, we went 1-9. We sucked. Matter of fact, we were great on offense, but we sucked on defense. Next year, looked like we were going to do the same. We started out 0-4. We lost the game like this. Probably, as a matter of fact, it looked worse than what this Penn State Nittany Lions put on Auburn. We lost 41-18, but when I tell you, I think the team let up on us. We lost 41-18. But we wound up going to the second round of the playoffs, and we wound up beating the number 4 team in the state, Brantley, with one of the best running backs in the state. And we started to believe in ourselves. And I challenge the Auburn fan base to just believe in the team. You might not like what you see now, but there are spots in this game that I saw where you take away the 4 turnovers, you might not be looking at a 41-12 loss. You still might be looking at a loss, but you might not be looking at a 41-12 loss. Because when you play a team like Penn State that recruits well, they have one of the best running backs in the country that'll gas you once your defense is deflated. I mean, it is what it is, guys. Auburn has Missouri coming to town next week. 12 o'clock game. Give this team the opportunity. Be a fan for once. Be a fan. Don't count these guys out. These guys work very hard. These guys have committed to Auburn. And there were a lot of guys that visited Auburn that probably saw something. You probably think, well, just because Auburn loses 41-12, we won't get any recruits. Come on, man. Let's not do that. Let's not do that to this team. Let's not do that to these parents. Let's not do this to these players. Kennard Vernon Stewart here for the podcast. In the Deep South, college football is king. And on the loveliest village of the plains, the battle cry is War Eagle. Like the video, comment, and subscribe. And as always, it's great to be an Auburn Tiger. War Eagle.